The story I want us to think about is an Old Testament story about a younger brother who was his dad's favorite, and he was rather smug because of that. And he has several older brothers who were jealous and not too friendly. But that finally worked together to the point where the older brothers did something they shouldn't have even thought about. They sold him into slavery. Next thing you know, he's in slavery in Egypt, and then some spiteful woman frames him, and now he's in jail. It was such an amazing, tragic mess that they made a Broadway musical. It's called Joseph and the Multicolored Dreamcoat. And I figure about the time that Joseph winds up in jail, he's about ready just to go back to the first musical, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. But he didn't do that. He began to apply Romans chapter 8. He began to surrender himself to the grace of God. He began to lose some of his smugness. And he surrendered himself to what God was trying to work out in his life. And you know what God worked out in his life? It's amazing. First of all, he got him out of jail. Second of all, he made him vice president of Egypt. Or vice pharaoh, or whatever. I don't know how, you know what I mean. And because he was in that position, he was able to help save his whole family. And when his brothers finally figured out what had happened and they apologized, he said this to them: "You intended it for evil, but God used it for good." So Joseph didn't get to stop the world and get off. He had to go through all those hardships. He had to go through those difficult times. He had to face that injustice. He had to face time in jail. He had to face unfairness. And he got to experience Romans chapter 8 to the fullest. Because it was obviously that somebody was working on his behalf. We know now that it was the Spirit praying for him. It was Jesus praying for him. And God beginning to work things together for good. You know why that story is in the Bible? Just for you. Just for you. Because you've been through times like that. Maybe you're in the middle of a time like that right now. Where you want to stop the world so you can get off. Where things are not the way you want them to be. And certainly would hope they would not be. But just like Joseph, and just like Paul, you can't stop the world and get off. But you can take advantage of the resources that God offers you to help you through. So when tough things happen to you, don't say, "This is not supposed to happen to me." You know what you should say when tough things happen to you? The Bible said that something like this was going to happen to me. Oh, and then in the next verse he said he's praying for me. Oh, and then the next verse says he's praying for me too. And then in the next verse it says he's going to work it together for good. I can handle it. Back to the first verse that we read. Paul, who went through more than his share of struggles, said, I guess he was a southerner. I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. In a way, this is just boot camp for heaven. So sorry to say, you can't stop the world and get up. But you can experience God's amazing grace to see you through each moment. And watch it come out the other end as something good. Just like Joseph. And it gets down to getting to know him better. I gotta tell one crazy story. I got lots of them, but just one. One of my privileges and pleasures in life was coaching Jesse in baseball. And Jesse got to know me as a coach. And he listened to me as a coach. You know how when you're trying to teach somebody, one of the kids, well, if you just stand this way, it'll help your back. And they go, okay, sure, coach, and then they stand the way they always do. But with Jesse, say, if you stand this way, it'll help your batting. He would do it. And it would help. So we got used to listening to Dad, his coach. One day, the bases were loaded, Jesse's on first base. And I gave the signal to steal second. The next pitch, Jesse stole second. With the bases loaded. And everybody in that whole place erupted, just like you're thinking, you can't do that! But Jesse, he didn't think about that. He thought, Dad said to go on. He knows what's going on. Well, I figured it out after a while. I really didn't have an idea to start with, but I figured it out. But if you know anything about baseball rules, you know you can do that. The only rule for running the bases is that you can't pass the guy in front of you. You can both stand on second. You just can't go past the guy on second. So here's two guys standing on second. And after the guy got done hollering, you can't do that, they realized, oh, I have to make a play. He can stand there as long as we don't make a play on him. So they throw the ball to second. The guy on third goes home. The catcher's hollering, you got rid of the ball, you got rid of the ball. So they didn't tag Jesse, they threw it home. Well, he's already safe, so the guy on second goes to third. When you find yourself in a tough situation, just remember that so much more than me as a coach, God knows what's going on. And the things that come your way, He can handle. And not only get you through them, but He can make something good out of them. Like a run scored and now a runner on second and third. You want good things to happen in your life? Pay attention to the coach and watch him do good stuff. Let's pray. thank you that you know exactly what's going on, past, present, and future. And you know how it all fits together, and you know how it all works, and you know what it's going to mean in our lives. So in those days when we want to stop the world and get off, help us to stick close to you and watch you work good things in our lives. Father, I pray for anyone here this morning who is at the point of wanting to stop the world so they can get off. In this group, there will most probably be somebody like that. And in the midst of their heartache, in the midst of their struggle, help them to hear your encouragement from your word this morning. And trust you to do work good things in their lives. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.